In Russia, President Vladimir Putin has warned that the country's coronavirus pandemic has not yet peaked. He announced that the current lockdown would be extended to May 11th, although restrictions may be eased after that. Russia has reported a significant increase in the number of cases, with an additional 6,400 infections in one day, bringing the nationwide total to almost 94,000. And the healthcare system is reaching its limits.
This ambulance is rushing to St. Petersburg Pokrovsky Hospital. Many healthcare workers in Russia are doing their utmost to cope with the coronavirus epidemic. But they are reaching their limits. More and more medical workers are now testing positive themselves.
There are 32 coronavirus patients in our unit, and 10 of them are medical workers. Yes, you didn't mishear me. All of our employees are now infected.
Russian President Vladimir Putin now acknowledged the problem during a televised meeting with his ministers.
The situation is still difficult. We're in constant contact with our specialists to coordinate our plans and actions. We have yet to pass the peak.
Russia has been on a strict lockdown since late March. Now Russians are being asked to stay home until at least May 11th. In his speech, the president thanked the people for abiding by the restrictions until now.
We managed to slow down the spread of the epidemic. This is the result of our joint work, the responsibility of millions of citizens who listen to the recommendations of doctors and specialists.
The Kremlin underlined that it will come up with measures to support Russia's fragile economy and ordinary Russians. Many are struggling to make ends meet due to the country's strict regulations, which force residents to stay at home unless absolutely necessary. In the capital, people are counting down the days until May 11th, but even then, a quick return to normality is unlikely.
Let's bring in our correspondent, Emily Sherwin, here in Moscow. Emily, what is the Russian government doing to support people during the lockdown?
Well, the government has been phasing in kind of economic support measures for the last few weeks, and that includes support for families with young children, for the unemployed, and even some loan deferrals and limited cash injections for businesses. But many people say that it's simply not enough and that much of that support is not reaching them. According to surveys, around a third of small and medium-sized businesses face bankruptcy, and people are upset, people are angry, people are taking to social media to express their discontent across the country, and they're saying, we don't have any money, we don't have food, what are we supposed to do? So this lockdown will be kind of raising those fears even more, this extension.
Okay, this extension now to May 11th, how are folks reacting to that?
Well, according to surveys, most people here in Russia do actually support tough lockdown measures. Well, that's in theory, of course, because even state TV here in Russia has been reporting for the past few days that people are kind of tired of the lockdown. More people have been on the streets of Moscow. It's pretty noticeable. And also, according to official statistics, they use mapping apps to kind of find that out. And people, I think, were hoping here very much for a loosening of lockdown measures for the upcoming May holidays, when people traditionally kind of go on holidays, have parties, have barbecues. But that, of course, was a huge risk of further infections.
In our report, Emily, we saw a clinic where many medical workers are infected with the coronavirus. How well is the Russian health system equipped to cope with this pandemic?
Well, things are tough, and actually the authorities have been pretty open about that, including Putin. Yesterday, he talked about the fact that Russia has already produced a huge amount of protective gear, ventilators, that they've upped testing, but he said that it was not enough and that the government should really be essentially upping their game. Here in Moscow, which has had more than half of the total of the coronavirus cases, the authorities have also said that the system is strained to its limit.
Emily, thank you very much. That was DW's Emily Sherwin in Moscow.